गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका दोबारा स्वागत है। वणक्कम, जय हिंद और प्रणाम। आज मैं 3 दिन के बाद दोबारा लाइव प्रोग्राम कर रहा हूं और वो भी एंड गेम यूक्रेन एंड बियॉन्ड की यूक्रेन का कहाँ युद्ध का कहाँ अंत होने वाला है, कब होने वाला है, कैसे होने वाला है और उसके बाद क्या होगा। और इसके बारे में बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ हैं कर्नल अजय सिंह। कर्नल अजय सिंह, welcome to Gunner Shot once again. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure coming onto your show and having a little jugalbandi as we go along.
Yeah, good. जैसे ये यूक्रेन वॉर अभी जैसे हम सबको पता है कि दुनिया में 3 जगह इम्पोर्टेंट लड़ाई या तनाव है, मिलिट्री तनाव। एक यूक्रेन में जो पिछले 2 साल से चला आ रहा है, एक अभी इसराइल और हमास के बीच में पैलेस्टाइन में हो रहा है, और तीसरा जो चुटपुट कुछ हो रहा है, जो स्लोली गोइंग अप द लैडर, इज इन साउथ चाइना सी। यूक्रेन के बारे में पिछले 2 साल से हमने बहुत प्रोग्राम किया है, बहुत लोगों ने प्रोग्राम किया है, और इट इज नाउ पीपल से इट्स एन स्टेलमेट, इट्स एक्स वाई जेड। बट what do we need to know? It's one of the major conflicts which is ongoing. We need to know कि भाई ये क्या होने वाला है आगे, क्या ये इसका कोई अंत है कि नहीं, और अगर अंत हुआ वो कैसे होगा, और उसके बाद क्या होगा, और इसका परिणाम बाकी विश्व में क्या होने वाला है, ये देखना है। और इसीलिए कल अजय सिंह हमारे साथ हैं, क्योंकि इन्होंने एक किताब भी लिखा है ऑन यूक्रेन, जिसमें मैंने भी एक चैप्टर लिखा, और ये इन्होंने बहुत एनालिसिस किया यूक्रेन के बारे में। तो मैंने सोचा इन्हीं से पूछूं, और ये यूक्रेन का युद्ध रोज फॉलो करते हैं ऑन अ डेली बेसिस। तो मैंने सोचा इन्हीं से पूछूं कि क्या होने वाला है यूक्रेन में। ऑल योर्स अजय, गो हेड। आप हिंदी में बात कर सकते हो, अंग्रेजी में बात कर
Sir.
सकते हैं, और
Thank you,
अगर
sir.
चाहिए तो आप तमिल में भी बात कर सकते हो।
Hindi, English will be
हाँ,
right.
इंग्लिश में बिल्कुल। आप
Yes.
जो जो आपको कंफर्ट लेवल है, आप उससे बात कीजिए।
Thanks, sir. Sir, today is the 669th day of the Ukraine war. A war जो लोग देखो ना 2 हफ्ते 3 हफ्ते में खत्म हो जाएगी कहानी. But today, after almost 2 years, I am actually seeing जो end state जो आपका title था, the end state is coming close. Not in this year, but in the coming campaigning season. Today we have to understand what is happening in Ukraine. Firstly, sir, पूरे साल हम सुनते रहे थे यूक्रेन लॉन्चिंग इट्स स्प्रिंग ऑफेंसिव, उनका स्प्रिंग ऑफेंसिव आ रहा है, लेपर्ड टैंक्स गए हैं, चैलेंजर टैंक्स गए हैं, हाउविट्जर्स गए हैं। जो स्प्रिंग ऑफेंसिव उन्हें लॉन्च किया था मेरे ख्याल से जून जुलाई में, उनके अचीवमेंट्स, आई विल टेल यू सर, इट इज, आई विल नॉट से जीरो, but it is minuscule. They have recaptured, they have only reached a depth of 11 kilometers at its deepest point. That means जो लोग कहते थे the aim of the offensive to capture all the area retaken by Russia, उसके नजदीक ही वो नहीं आ रहे हैं। जो मैप आप दिखा रहे हो सर, आपने देखा जो ग्रीन डॉट्स है, डॉट्स ही तो है जो यूक्रेन ने टेक ओवर किया है इन द एरिया ऑफ अ प्लेस कॉल्ड तोकमक, जो कि जापोरिजिया के नजदीक है। They have only broken the first defensive line, और इस इलाके में to reach the sea they have to break 6 more defensive lines. They got 7 defensive lines in the area. ये उन्होंने कार्रवाई की है आफ्टर ऑलमोस्ट 5 months ऑफ अ वेरी स्लो एंड मैं कहता हूं वेरी टिमिड ऑफेंसिव। बहुत टिमिड ऑफेंसिव था, डर डर के वो लोग आगे चलते रहे थे। दिन में 400 मीटर 500 मीटर, दैट इज नो ऑफेंसिव, द टैंक्स वर नॉट यूज करेक्टली एट ऑल। बट if they go at this rate, sir, it will take them 104 years to recapture the area they have lost. That is the speed at which this so-called offensive is going. So as military man, any man, sir, as a common man also, it tells you instantly the offensive is a no-go. Abhi winter aa gayi hai. They will not make much progress beyond that because the ground will become hard. March, May, spring thaw hoga, there will be no progress. But this is a critical time, sir. ये winter, I won't say the pause. Local actions तो चलते रहेंगे because ground is hard. Tanks will be able to move better in hard ground, in fact. So little offenses will continue. Lekin more than that, this period will be used by both Russia and Ukraine to consolidate. अभी consolidation में क्या होगा? Russia will consolidate defensive lines. They will consolidate the positions. Remember, sir, they have captured 18% of Ukraine. Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, Donetsk, all are in their hands. Crimea तो 2014 में उन लोग ले चुके थे. They will consolidate this area, and more than that, they will consolidate a force which can now go on the offensive in the coming year, maybe earlier also. If you take a look, sir, just 16th December को 3 दिन पहले, Putin had announced in one of his very rare press conferences that the war will not finish till Russia attains its full and complete objectives. What are the objectives? Denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine. Yani ki the destruction of its army, and more importantly, politically denazification matlab the removal of Zelensky from power. Will they be able to attain it, sir? As a military man, I think yes, next year, Ukraine is now today in a very weak position. The US, जैसे आपने बता दिया, the attention has been diverted. They have given them $116 billion. अभी इसकी आगे they say, we want the money to be sent to Israel. We want money to build a wall between USA and Mexico because the threat from illegal migrants is more than the threat which Ukraine faces from Russia. So in the last, Zelensky, when he visited USA just a month ago, he came back with only good luck wishes and no aid. Without aid, sir, Ukraine can fight for only 45 days on its own steam. In a nutshell, sir, the war of attrition, जो कि Russia लड़ रहा था the past 2 years, good strategy. They are winning the war of attrition. What remains now is the political and the diplomatic war, which we shall cover as we go along.
Yeah, I agree with you. आपने जो बताया military situation तो stalemate में है और यूक्रेन जो है वो आगे बढ़ नहीं सकता. बट बात यह है कि रशिया भी वापस ऑफेंसिव में नहीं जा सकता आज के दिन. और मेरा सिर्फ ये है कि जो आपने बोला कि पुतिन has said he will not stop the war till all his objectives are reached. ये भी बात सही है. पर सवाल ये है कि क्या रशिया के पास वो दम है ये करने के लिए. बात इसमें सिर्फ मिलिट्री ये नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर आप हम मैप देखेंगे तो बड़ा क्लियर जाहिर होता है कि अगर आप पूरा ले लोगे militarily, then you might be, have to face a counterinsurgency.
Yes.
Right? So,
Right.
So, in that context, do you think Russia will make the mistake of, trying to take over more land?
Sir, if we see, today they've already taken over the areas they wanted. They said Donbass is the area.
ये इसमें दो
is there?
मेरा इसमें दो राय नहीं है कि जो एरिया इनके पास है वो यूक्रेन के पास वापस नहीं जाएगा, उसके पास है. पर मेरा सवाल यह है कि क्या रशिया even with its consolidated force, even with its economy going up, even despite this thing, will he make the mistake of occupying more area of Ukraine?
He may be able to move up to the line of the Dnieper River, sir, next year.
वो तो चंद किलोमीटर ही है आगे.
हाँ, वही मैं कहता हूँ, अगर वहां तक पहुंच गए, they have a beautiful dividing line between Russia and Ukraine, and all that area comes into it. उसको कितना आगे जाना है? 40
और
kilometers.
5-6 किलोमीटर ना, बस वो मैक्सिमम 30-40.
So yes, sir, but the line of the Dnieper River, if it gets that area, can you imagine? I think that's why we'll head for next year, pakka. And he will
So that is the end.
Yes,
So
sir.
जो आप बोल रहे हो, वो मैप देखते हैं,
Yes,
तो
sir.
डनेपर रिवर और डिनीप्रो, कार्किव डिनीप्रो का लाइन है वो.
वही लाइन है.
वहां उससे ज्यादा आगे नहीं जाएगा. तो ये जो वो थोड़ा बहुत आगे जाने से या ना जाने से रशिया को कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, क्योंकि मैं रीट्रेट करना चाहता हूं कि उसके जो प्यूटिन के युद्ध का क्या मुख्य एम्स थे. एक तो डीनाजिफिकेशन वगैरह वगैरह. उसके साथ साथ ही वांटेड टू एंश्योर दैट यूक्रेन डज नॉट जॉइन NATO. And NATO does not get deployed in Ukraine. ये दोनों तो whether he goes to Dnipro or not, he still got that. Okay.
Right.
And
right.
NATO has virtually lost interest in Ukraine आज के दिन.
Absolutely.
तो अगर आप देखोगे तो Putin has reached where he wanted to reach. Right?
Yes.
And I don't think it's in his capability to change Zelensky unless people.
Sir,
that's my view.
I agree. So that is the reason I was coming to. Zelensky is standing for elections in this year. One of the aims is, like they said, denazification matlab Zelensky ko nikal do. That's a Nazi party. One more military push, a defeat, will more or less put public opinion against Zelensky and may ensure his defeat. And then Russia will do what they usually do: put a pro-Russian ruler who will be there in his place. They have been doing in Ukraine all abroad.
ये आप जो नहीं, ये जो आप बोल रहे हो, मैं मानता हूँ ये एक ऑप्शन है. एक तरफ ये एक ऑप्शन है, राइट? एंड गेम जो है, दिस कुड बी द राइट. Okay. What are the other options? बड़ा सिंपल. मेरा सवाल कि बाकी और क्या ऑप्शन है इसमें?
Okay. The other option, sir, is status quo.
Okay.
Today, same status quo जो उन्होंने किया था in Crimea. It is what you call ipso facto ours. जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस. हमने ले लिया क्रीमिया, अभी हम रखेंगे. हमने ले लिया ये 4 प्रोविंस, अभी हम रखेंगे. ये अभी LOC बन गया. आप लोग sanctions करो, जो करना है करो. We shall fight a LOC war. अभी already it's called the LOC. It's called line of contact, which to my mind is the most likely option, sir. Because जब उन्होंने क्रीमिया किया था 2014 में, the battle along the line of control in both Donbass continued for 8 years. तो अभी क्या हो गया? LOC shifted 200 kilometers westward. They will hold on.
मैं मानता हूँ आप जो बोल रहे हो, बिल्कुल मानता हूँ. अगर the options अगर आप देखेंगे तो जो लाइन आज का है वो यार डिनिप्रो तक जा सकता है.
Yes.
तो दोनों हालत में Russia will be committed to a fight in Ukraine, isn't it?
In the present situation, they are better off because the areas they've got is more pro-Russian speaking.
देखिए, नहीं, मैं कहीं और जा रहा हूँ. मैं आपको और कहीं लेके जा रहा हूँ.
Right.
Whether they are good, bad or ugly, वो बात अलग है. But Russia will be committed in a war, whether they are at this location or in Dnipro.
Yes. Unless they have a negotiated peace with Ukraine.
हाँ, तो अभी आ रहे हो, अभी ये.
So,
So I mean, I'm taking you there only.
I understand your point, so it reinforces mine. To go for a negotiated peace, they will go in from a position of strength.
No, no,
To me,
but I'm not saying what will Russia do. No, I'm not saying. Look, for one moment, I'm not against Russia. I'm not against Ukraine. I am only seeing the options and the end game की क्या क्या हो सकता है.
right.
Right. तो ये है एक आप बोल रहे हो कि one of the
Totally.
options जो आएगा, चाहे वो आज के इलाके में हो या कल के दिन अगर एफेंसिव जाके और 10-15 किलोमीटर आगे जाके करो तो नेगोशिएटेड पीस की बात हो रही है.
बिल्कुल सही है. Totally.
नेगोशिएटेड पीस में क्या वो 10 किलोमीटर इधर है या उधर है कुछ ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता.
कुछ फर्क पड़ेगा.
ओके, बिकॉज मुद्दे बड़े हैं उसमें. तो ये नेगोशिएटेड पीस जो है, लेट्स पुट 2-3 व्हाट विल बी रशिया's स्टैंड ऑन नेगोशिएटेड पीस. उसका क्या मुद्दे होंगे नेगोशिएटेड पीस में? रुकिए उसी प्रकार व्हाट विल बी यूक्रेन्स stand on the negotiated peace?
Interesting question, sir.
हाँ, देख तीसरी बात ये right. तीसरी बात, what will be Europe's terms for this negotiated peace? Because Europe is a player in this deal.
Yes.
And what is USA's terms? Because ये 4 term चाहिए आपको.
Superb, sir. Superb. Now, the biggest problem in the negotiated peace, quote unquote, is the fact that there is no start ground as of today, sir. Zelensky ने एक 10-point peace plan बनाया था, in which he said, yes, we will enter negotiations provided Russia vacates each inch of Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. They give you war damages, return prisoners, ऐसे 20 point बना दिए.
Yeah.
Now, Russia came up with just one line. The provinces which are ours, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, are ours. No negotiation on that. Let's start negotiating anything else beyond that. So the start point never came about. Today, Russia is in a position to enforce the fact that this is ours.
नहीं, देखिए.
No, I'm coming to that, sir. So the point which Russia will be negotiating is, okay, this is land is ours, and in return of that, we have peace. The land for peace policy, as they are talking about.
Okay, that's a good one.
Bombing, so, and land is ours, and we give you peace in return, sir. That may be a
fine. So that is the starting point for Russia. You have said the Ukraine का starting point is कि भाई आप पीछे हट जाओ, तब हम बात करेंगे. Right. अभी यूरोप का क्या स्टैंड होगा?
यूक्रेन का स्टैंड होगा वेरी गुड. उन लोग भी तो तंग आ गए. They said, okay, very good. Ukraine, you please surrender these 4 provinces for peace. They shall do so. Europe is not so interested in the fight as much as USA is. They would rather have things go back to normal. Let the oil start flowing. Let the gas start flowing. They will build up their defenses to keep Russia at bay in the long term. But for now, they are also interested in having the land for peace agreement, which is what Germany and France are saying, sir.
Okay, एक और चीज मैं बताना चाहता हूं, इसमें बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. आप बार-बार बोलते आ रहे हो कि रशिया इज इन अ पोजीशन ऑफ स्ट्रेंथ वगैरह वगैरह. इसमें एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट सोचने वाली बात है कि one of the major things of Russia was to keep NATO away from itself.
Right, sir.
But अभी क्या हुआ है कि फिनलैंड और स्वीडन जो है ना, वो NATO के हिस्से बन गए.
Right.
तो उससे क्या है, NATO has come and sat on Russia's border square along Finland.
Right.
जो यूक्रेन में नहीं हुआ है, वो NATO has come to the doorstep of Russia on the north already.
Yes.
And उसके पीछे, people don't understand the geography. I don't know whether in this map it is there, but let us see. ऊपर है तो.
No, it is नहीं है. Further to the west, sir.
हाँ, वो क्या है कि इसमें
at the moment Romania and Poland are part of NATO, but left में भी Sweden शुरू हो जाएगा.
स्वीडन और फिनलैंड हो गए. तो there is a maritime border of NATO with
Yes.
Russia,
Right.
and there is a physical border of Russia on Finland.
Correct.
So NATO has actually come closer to
Close.
USA.
Correct.
So has Russia, not closer to USA,
To
has
USA, to
come, NATO
Russia.
has come close to Russia and sitting on
Correct.
its borders. So don't
Right.
you think Russia has already lost that game?
Sir, let me give you one more scenario, sir. They have come to NATO. बिल्कुल ठीक. NATO has been inching forward for 1,500 kilometers over the past 20 years. They have been inching forward. This is a part of the inching policy. Now, even if NATO has come out there, let me give you one more scenario. Assuming Donald Trump comes into power next year and he says, I want to get
नहीं, वो
USA
अलग
out of NATO,
नहीं
then
नहीं
where
एक
is
मिनट
NATO?
एक मिनट नहीं 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 वो तो हो नहीं सकता.
Huh.
We'll not talk of that because that he tried once and it didn't work. The fact is today NATO is sitting on Russia's front.
Right.
Russia
Sir.
has to deal with another 1,300, 400 kilometers on the Finland thing and a
Borders,
maritime border with Sweden. So
right.
to that extent, the Ukraine war ka outflow on, the outcome on Russia is that they might have ensured that NATO is not on the Ukraine border,
Right.
but it is sitting on its northern border.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the thing which has happened.
Yes.
Second,
Yes.
now you just think of Russia's status. Russia has now a border with NATO on the north and a uneasy border with Ukraine in the south.
Right.
All put together, this whole border is about 3,000 kilometers.
Right.
So to say that Russia is in a strong position to bargain,
Okay.
is also has its issues.
Okay.
So Russia has a lot of issues to bargain. How Russia buys peace, the counter, as you said, is Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, that belt which it has got. So this is a thing which Russia has to contend with.
I agree.
Okay.
They'll have to balance it out. Right.
तो ये नहीं कि यूक्रेन हार गया इस युद्ध में और रशिया जीत गया, इसीलिए स्टेलमेट है. पॉलिटिकली, डिप्लोमेटिकली इट इज स्टिल अ स्टेलमेट.
राइट.
स्ट्रेटेजिकली आल्सो इट्स अ स्टेलमेट और इसमें कोई ब्रेक नहीं है.
राइट.
ठीक है ना. अच्छा, अभी आते हैं, आपने बोल दिया कि यूरोप डजंट वांट दिस वॉर एनीमोर. ओके, कुछ हद तक सही है. इंडिकेशन तो शो दैट कि भाई यूरोप थक गया है, वो लड़ने से इसकी बस की बात नहीं है. पर अभी आते हैं यूएसए के बारे में.
That's the most important, sir.
हाँ, तो यूएसए के बताइए. हाँ, यूएसए बताइए. आपने जैसे बोला है कि यूएसए में अभी जैसे अब जेलेंस्की गया वहां, उसको पैसा नहीं मिला, उसको अच्छे शब्द मिले, उसने बोला भाई जाओ जो भी करना है कर लो.
राइट.
तो यूएसए में देयर इज वन लॉबी व्हिच सेज क्लोज दिस वॉर.
Absolutely, Republicans don't want it.
Some people say continue. So what do you think USA stance is going to be going ahead of this war?
The US stance is what's going to determine how the war will close. And for USA, their strategy is depending on weakening Russia continually. They know the aid they have given Ukraine will not suffice for them to win the war, but it'll suffice to prolong the war, extend it, and keep on weakening Russia so that it no longer poses a threat in the long term. Like you said, sir, Russia is in an uneasy position. Had Ukraine been infused with more weapon and equipment where they could fight more for maybe a year longer, Russia is spending $1 billion a day on the war. They're losing people, everything. So weakening of Russia is the US policy, and they would love to extend the war as long as possible. But even inside the USA, it is a divided house. The Republicans definitely don't want to give, they are already questioning, this $116 billion, what have you got to show for it? And sir, to tell you about the US position, मैं आपको एक बड़ी अच्छी कहानी बताना चाहता हूँ, which I heard from the horse's mouth, the person who was there when it happened, sir. You see, when the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, he was the diplomat posted in Kiev. And if you remember, a famous Russian armored column, the column was coming from Belarus towards Kiev, और फिर 10 दिन के लिए for no reason it halted. Up तक nobody got a real answer for that. So he was telling me it halted because at that time the diplomats, the Ukrainians and the Russian diplomats had got in direct touch with each other. They met in Odessa. And his exact words, he said, they're like Indians, Pakistani, Punjabi chappe lage, vodka drinking. They were talking, and it was agreed in 3 days' time that Russia will withdraw, Ukraine will give a written guarantee not to join NATO, agree to a security guarantee, and the war would have been terminated. Here, everything seemed to be hunky-dory, and that after the third evening, the US ambassador to Ukraine came over. He said, "Mujhe pata nahi what he told them, but next morning the diplomats refused to agree to anything. They moved back and the war resumed." This was told to me, sir, by the person who was
नहीं, ये बात आप जो बोल रहे बिल्कुल मैं सहमत हूँ.
तो मैं आपको ये कहानी बताना चाहता हूँ to tell you that this is the level of the US involvement in trying to keep the war going.
नहीं, ये आप जो बोल रहे हो बिल्कुल सही है. मैं बट उसके ऑप्शंस क्या हैं और क्यों हैं ऑप्शंस? यूएसए के क्या ऑप्शंस? या
सर यूएसए के तो 2 ऑप्शंस है. One is continue funding Ukraine so that they can prolong the war. The other is stop funding and focus inward or on other threats that are emerging in the Middle East or in against China.
Okay, so that is the 2 options.
There are 2 major options.
What is ठीक है, उसका बेनिफिट क्या होगा यूएसए के लिए पहले ऑप्शन में, बेनिफिट क्या होगा इस दूसरे ऑप्शन में?
पहले बेनिफिट होगा सर, by keeping the war going, they see a threat from Russia.
What threat?
I think it's a legacy of the Cold War. That USSR threat was there.
Okay.
And also, sir, another thing, it is a personal animosity of Biden and Putin. Remember, Putin tried to influence the elections against him.
Okay.
And as you know, personalities have a great role in great power politics.
Right. So, okay, I have a different theory on this. Let me explain that.
Please, sir.
You see, logically, the balance of power, Vishwa mein, taken aaj ke din, is between 3 great powers. Russia, China, and USA.
Right.
Logically, इसमें क्या है कि historically also, in the last century, USA got China together to break USSR.
Correct.
So there is a school of thought, which is the John Mearsheimer school of thought, which says, your main threat is China. So you should have
won Russia over,
won Russia over and fought against China.
Correct.
By going into this war with Russia, right, and trying to break Russia or whatever you wanted to do,
right?
अभी क्या है, वो दोस्त बन गए, you are 1 against 2.
Right.
So ये क्या है? It's not a winning strategy. This is what John Mearsheimer says.
Totally agree, sir.
So yeah. So logically ये agreement है. But the counter argument to this, which is the current thinking and current किस तरीके से चल रहा है, weaken Russia to such an extent, right? Weaken Russia to such an extent that Russia cannot help China, and then USA can take on China.
An adversary.
Let me finish the story. One adversary, you can finish him off. Okay. And in this, there is some logic. There's some logic because if this war continues in this manner, Russia is entangled with Ukraine in any manner. With Finland sitting already on top, Russia keeps getting weakened. Because war is war at the end of the day.
Absolutely, sir.
Right? And then USA can tackle China, and the thinking is also that China might be a pacing threat to USA. यही बोलते हैं ना, China.
Right.
Is a pacing threat to China. But this pacing threat is facing severe economic and demographic problems.
Now, right.
नाउ नहीं, ये अगले 5-6 साल चलता रहेगा.
Okay.
So there are people in USA, there's a school of thought, and I also see that school of thought. He has strategic patience
Mhm.
to continue degrading Russia and
Right.
let China go into auto degrade, and then you can handle China. So this is one school of thought.
Very logical, sir. Very, very
Very
logical.
logical, very logical. The second school of thought, जो आपने बोला ट्रम्प स्कूल ऑफ थॉट,
Uh-huh.
वो कहता है यार छोड़ो, रशिया तो मेरा दोस्त होना चाहिए, उसके साथ सुलह करो. यूक्रेन को, इट डजंट मैटर व्हाट हैपेंस टू यूक्रेन,
Huh.
get Russia out of the equation and deal with China 1-1.
Right.
तो ये दो ऑप्शंस है मेरे. आप इसके ऊपर, दोनों के ऊपर कमेंट कीजिए.
Sir, both options are logical. The first option is being followed by the Biden school of thought. Let me put it this way. The second option is being followed by the Trump school of thought. So I think it just tells us one thing. The outcome, or rather the course in which the war is going to take, will be shaped very much by the outcome of the US elections. It doesn't have to be Trump. Even the Republicans follow the second school of thought. So even a Republican comes, sir, they will follow the second school of thought.
नहीं, वो that is questionable कि
Yes.
whether Republicans
No,
are
I agree with, I think what you've given is superbly logical viewpoints, two viewpoints of Russia, which I'm sure the US are debating within themselves. But the decision will be taken largely dependent on the party that comes into power in the next US elections. Sir.
ओके. सो तो जो स्थिति अभी अब तक हमने डिसाइड किया भाई, विंटर में कुछ नहीं होगा. विंटर के बाद जो भी कहानी होगा उस वक्त होगा,
शुरू हो जाएगी.
whether this war will go up or down,
हाँ,
यानी दोबारा लड़ाई छिड़ेगा कि नहीं, और
हाँ,
वो निर्धारित है होगा यूएसए का इलेक्शंस के
एक,
आउटकम के ऊपर.
right?
ठीक है. और उसके बाद सोचा जाएगा कि भाई पीस में जाना है या नहीं, और किस तरीके से शांति स्थापित
चाहिए.
होगा कि नहीं, वो उस
हाँ,
वक्त. तो अगले 6 से 8 महीने तक ये लड़ाई चलता रहेगा ऐसे.
वो
ना किसी
लिंगर
का
ऑन
जीत
करता
होगा,
रहेगा.
ना किसी का लिंगर ऑन करता रहेगा. ठीक है,
जैसे अगर
मैं
देखा जाए तो
मानता
पूरे
हूँ.
साल तो लिंगर ऑन करता रहा था. लेटर
हाँ,
हाफ ऑफ द ईयर विल कंटिन्यू लाइक दिस लो लेवल.
विल कंटिन्यू.
यस सर.
ठीक. तो ये जो बैलेंस ऑफ पावर की कहानी में
हाँ,
चाइना का क्या रोल है?
very, very interesting, sir, because now China will want Russia to emerge stronger because Russia is leaning towards it. For it, this war, in a way, it suits China. I'm not talking the economic aspects. In the geopolitical aspect, it suits China because Russia has been isolated with everybody else, and it will now coming closer to China's embrace, maybe as a junior partner, but it's still there. So, for China, it suits it very much. The other thing, more importantly, sir, जैसे आप कह रहे हो चाइना का तो इकोनॉमिक डिक्लाइन चल रहा है. They're having a lot of internal problems which are not coming out. I mean, you bring it out in your
Yes.
talks. But the war is diverting USA and the West in Europe against the main threat of China, which they
तो
perceived was the main threat of China. So for them, again, the war suits them.
बिल्कुल, मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ कि आज का स्थिति जो है चाइना के लिए अच्छा है,
Yes.
क्योंकि यूएसए has got entangled with
Yes.
Ukraine. USA has got entangled in the Middle East, and China अपना रास्ता नाप रहा है और जो भी कर रहा है. पर बात यह है कि does China have a free run despite all this? इस स्थिति में हालत अगर बदलेगा तो क्या होगा, हम बात करेंगे. इस स्थिति में भी China doesn't seem to be having a free run.
No,
By
no.
USA, because USA is not committed its forces anywhere.
Yes. Yes.
Forces are committed there. And they are ready.
Though, say if you remember, the USA had to divert 2 of its carrier groups to the Mediterranean with the Middle East war. That's another thing coming in the equation, which will decide it a lot. So, both the Middle East war, I would say the Middle East and the Ukraine conflict, and the diversion of US time, attention, resources, diplomatic power, everything suits China.
Yeah, but it doesn't suit China because in one way, let me explain it to you. उसका
Sir,
एनर्जी प्रॉब्लम है, वो तेल
yes,
चाहिए उसको गाड़ी में से, और वहां फौज इकट्ठा हो गया यूएसए का, यूएसए उस इलाके को कंट्रोल करेगा. अभी रेड सी रूट्स बंद हो रहे हैं वो हौतीज की वजह से,
yes, yes,
राइट? तो
right.
much as we think China is benefiting from the Ukraine war, China is also suffering because of this Ukraine war.
True. Agree, sir. Collateral damage तो उनको भी हो रहा है.
उनके वो भी हो रहा है, हमें पता नहीं चल रहा पर हो रहा है.
हाँ.
और लोग हर रोज, अभी यूरोप ने बोल दिया कि भाई अब अगर आप रशिया को सपोर्ट करोगे तो हम आपके साथ संबंध नहीं रखेंगे. वो तो यूरोप ने साफ बता दिया कि आप रशिया के साथ नाता तोड़ दो, सपोर्ट करना छोड़ दो, तब हम आपके साथ बिजनेस शुरू करेंगे, नहीं तो हम नहीं करेंगे.
That is why no statement has come from a Chinese leader for many months now, sir, about the war.
हाँ, yes. तो देखिए, ठीक है, तो एक नजर से देखेंगे तो चाइना, जैसे आपने बताया, चाइना हैज हैविंग अ गुड टाइम इन द यूक्रेन वॉर बिकॉज ऑफ द यूक्रेन वॉर. और दूसरी नजरिया से देखोगे तो चाइना इज इन अ फिक्स. ओके, तो अभी आगे जाके देखेंगे चाइना का हालत क्या होगा. अगर ट्रम्प का कहानी हो गया और वो वॉर खत्म हो गया यूक्रेन में, फिर चाइना का क्या हाल होगा?
Trump has one thing about his foreign policy जो सही था, was he recognized China as the main threat.
Main threat, yeah.
He recognized it. Baki presidents tried to mollycoddle them. He recognized it. He also recognized the need to get Russia to their side. And he was doing it quite, even the Middle East, he was trying his bit to get things in place.
उसी के टाइम में तो अब्राहम्स अकॉर्ड हुआ.
अकॉर्ड हुआ था, सब उसके टाइम पर हुआ था, you know. So in spite of all that showmanship, some of his foreign policy actions were actually quite sensible.
Yeah, now, very good. In fact,
back and say Trump goes back to my buddy Putin. He is actually a good. Okay, and he said, okay, theek hai, we will agree to a negotiated peace in which Russia gets whatever it wants and Ukraine well fought red, but Russia the winner kind of thing. Now let me focus back on the Indo-Pacific. That would be the best case scenario for everybody, less China, including India.
Including India. Yes. Yeah, you know what you have said is very right. So the end game Ukraine might not be in Ukraine; it might be in South China Sea.
Oh, of course.
तो ये यहाँ नहीं वहाँ हो सकता है. So it's very interesting. और इसके साथ साथ हमें ये भी याद रखना पड़ेगा कि यूक्रेन का युद्ध अलग नजरिया से ही नहीं देख सकते. आप गाड़ी देशों में क्या हो रहा है और वेस्ट एशिया में क्या हो रहा है और इजराइल और हमास के बीच में जो लड़ाई किस तरीके से चलेगी, दैट विल आल्सो हैव एन इंपैक्ट.
यस, ईरान विल मेक अ बिग इंपैक्ट. ईरान द हाउथीज,
ईरान में
असर पड़ेगा,
राइट? सो देयर इज लॉट ऑफ things yet to be played. यूक्रेन वॉर हम सोच सकते हैं कि आज के दिन ठंडा पड़ा हुआ है, पर इसका जो परिणाम जो होने वाला है वो लंबे हद से तक जाने वाला है. तो अभी हम आते हैं कि भाई ये जो भी परिणाम होगा, आप ये बताइए भारत के दृष्टिकोण से.
I was waiting for this question, sir.
बात करो.
Does this war suit India? No war fought anywhere suits any other nation. But I'll put it this way. The way India has played its cards in the war, we have made the best of the deals. I would give this government and a wonderful foreign minister, Mr. Jaishankar, 12 points out of 10 for the manner in which they've handled this war. We have got oil shock jo hona tha. We have purchased oil at $62 per barrel. We have got surplus of oil. We are refining oil and selling it to Europe, which has saved Europe from a recession. We have maintained ties with Russia. We have maintained ties with the European Union. We have maintained ties with Ukraine. And also that strategic equation with USA is still intact. So, like I said, so no war is good for anybody else. It burns people in the vicinity, all right. But the way we have played our cards in this situation, we have made the best of the deal. And I would say, barring the problems of spares and the other disruptions will take place, we have actually benefited from it.
राइट तो ये अभी तक जो हुआ है यूक्रेन की लड़ाई से भारत को काफी आई वुड से फायदा हुआ है। भारत को एक मौका मिला है कि अपना स्थिति को सुधारने के लिए, और भारत ने अपना वी प्लेड अपने पत्ते अच्छे तरीके से खेल लिया हमने, और हम एक स्तर तक आके पहुंच गए जहां आजकल हमारा सुनवा ही नहीं, सब बोलबाला भी है इन द लार्जर स्कीम ऑफ थिंग्स। इसमें इसमें देयर नो डाउट ऑन दैट स्कोर। बट व्हाट आई वांट यू टू से इज, ये जो दो तीन सिनेरियोस व्हिच वी हैव स्पेल्ड आउट गोइंग अहेड, going ahead, where do you see this whole story going for India?
For India? Well, so like you brought out, Russia-Ukraine is likely to be a long stalemate for some time to come. And for India, at the moment now, I think though we are maintaining good ties with Russia, we are gradually moving towards the US and the West, which is the good thing to do. We are maintaining our strategic autonomy, all right. We are not taking any decision against the national interest or going completely into the embrace. Because a kahavat hai, it is dangerous to be USA's enemy, but it is even more dangerous to be their friend.
Yeah, it is fatal to be its friend, yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's the correct word. So we are moving towards them. We are receiving good technological aid. Like the USA helped China to become a superpower by facilitating the economic rise and the integration. If USA helps us in weaning the economic channels away from China towards India, helps India become a great power or regional power status, it is very much in our benefit. And I think that is the correct stance. Without being overtly caught up in the embrace, yes, we must tilt to the winning side. Let me put it this way.
So whichever way you look at it, कि यूक्रेन का युद्ध जो भी परिणाम होगा, जो भी सिनेरियो में एंड करेगा, इंडिया is still in a good position. Am I right to say that?
Yes.
No, going ahead also.
Yes.
Going ahead also.
Good
क्योंकि
policy.
आपका जो एनर्जी का जो प्रॉब्लम है काफी हद तक हल हो गया, क्योंकि रशिया का एनर्जी आपको आता मिलेगा। यूरोप को, जैसे आपने बोला, यूरोप को एनर्जी चाहिए तो आपका रिफाइंड
हम उनको बचा रहे
हैं, वो तो जाएगा ही जाएगा, राइट। और in terms of balance of power, USA will continue to need India to handle China.
Yes.
So they cannot, lot of whatever it is, they can't let.
Our position, our power, our economic strength, our strategic strength, all dictates that at the moment we are in a nice.
Yeah, balle balle is the word I use. I mean, I have no doubt about it. Okay, so that's how it has happened. पिछले एक साल से we are talking of real politics and real this thing. So this is where it is. तो जो अभी पिछले 45 मिनट्स में हमने ये बात किया है कि यूक्रेन का युद्ध कहाँ जाएगा, क्या परिणाम होंगे, क्या शांति स्थापित होगा, क्या रिकंस्ट्रक्शन होगा यूक्रेन में, ये सब आगे की बातें हैं। पर जो भी होगा उसका परिणाम और उसका क्या इफेक्ट होगा on many issues we have highlighted. Shall we take a few questions, or unless you have something more to say?
No, sir. I think we have covered very